being 7:30 or so, we will call this meeting to order. We will have Cheryl Provivaroff lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're to staff presentations, a report from the Torrance Education Foundation.
Good evening. Those of you who were with us yesterday in beautiful downtown Manhattan Beach for the Skechers Walk will know that it was a big success. We had an unofficial total of 1,862 walkers, which the number will increase because we don't have the last-minute sign-ups yet, nor the things that might have come in the mail in the last couple of days. So that's a 30% increase in participation over last year, which is fantastic, and will lead to robust support from Skechers for the foundation and the schools in the district. So thank you to everybody who might be here who participated, and we're happy. Good turnout, great support from the schools and our ambassadors at each campus who help us get people excited. We'll be launching our fall annual fund campaign in November, and that will be going out in the mail to community members. Just want to let everybody know that that's coming, and keep your eyes peeled for a letter from us. We'll be also starting with our Toyota Lexus drawing. Toyota, as you know, has been a terrific supporter of the foundation for quite a long time, and they are again providing us with a car to have a drawing, and that will be going out probably in December, and as you know, will culminate at our annual dinner, which is the last point on my agenda. That date has been set for the Celebrate Education dinner for April 30th. And we will be switching some things up and trying some new fun elements this year, so stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I add something? May I speak?
Yeah, Council, well, what?
Can I speak back to Susan?
Yes, you can.
I just wanted to let you know, Susan, that I don't know if you noticed or if it was brought to your attention that we do have a resolution proclaiming November 2015 as Torrance Education Foundation Month.
I was made aware of that, yes.
So we will be celebrating that the entire month long.
Well, thank you very much, and we will celebrate with you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions?
April 30th at the Marriott, right?
Pardon me?
April 30th at the Marriott, right?
Maybe not.
No.
We aren't sure yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
The location will be decided and made public shortly.
Very good.
Intrigue. Anyway, report from the Torrance Council of PTAs.
Hello, everyone. My Red Ribbon Week chair was not able to come this evening, so I am going to read her report for her. Her name is Christy Bazell, and she's new to this chair position, and she's doing a great job. So I'm just going to read what she wrote up. Growing up, Enrique Kiki Camarano wanted to make a difference. He worked his way through college, served in the Marines, and became a police officer. Despite his mother's protests, he joined the Drug Enforcement Agency. He was assigned to work undercover in Mexico, investigating a major drug cartel believed to include officers in the Mexican Army, police, and government. On February 7th, 1985, 37-year-old Camarano left his office to meet his wife for lunch. He never made it. 5 men kidnapped him, and his body was found a month later. He had been tortured to death. In memory of his battle against illegal drugs, friends and neighbors began to wear red satin badges. Parent coalitions formed against drugs and alcohol abuse and wore red ribbons as well. These red ribbon campaigns have reached millions of students across the U.S. since the first campaign in 1988. Parents are the biggest deterrent to kids using drugs. Research shows when parents talk to their kids about the risk of drugs, those kids are less likely to use and abuse both legal and illegal drugs than kids whose parents say nothing. After marijuana, the most common drug teens are using to get high are prescription medications. 12 to 17-year-old children abuse prescription drugs more than ecstasy, heroin, crack cocaine, and methamphetamines combined. More than 70% of people 12 and older who abuse prescription drugs say they get them from a friend or a relative. The most commonly abused prescription drugs are pain medications, Vicodin and OxyContin, sleeping pills, anti-anxiety medications, Xanax and Ambien, and stimulants used to treat ADD and ADHD, Adderall and Ritalin. Smoke shops sell items like bath salts and spice. Bath salts resemble Epsom salts, contain cathinone, and have been an effect similar to amphetamines. Spice is a synthetic marijuana that is sold as incense or potpourri. These are sold legally because they are marked not for human consumption, although their makers not only know but expect that their products will be swallowed, smoked, snorted, or injected. This year's national theme is Respect Yourself, Be Drug-Free. Last week, the Torrance City Council issued a Red Ribbon Week proclamation, and we'd like to thank our Torrance PTAs, schools, community departments, and members helping to educate our youth about the dangers of using both legal and illegal drugs. Thanks to our Torrance police officers visiting our schools as part of our Red Ribbon Week activities, and we'd like to thank you for your support. Today was the start of Red Ribbon Week, so that's why I'm wearing my red. A lot of the schools are having different activities on site to open things up to the kids and make this a really wonderful awareness week. So, does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Michelle.
That's why I'm wearing red, too.
Thank you. Just kidding.
Okay. Recognition of, better turn that on. Recognition of student representative and student report by student representative, which is William Kang, right over there, your last meeting. Seems like you were just here.
So, in case you have forgotten, in lieu of my absence of the last meeting, I'm William King. I'm the ASB president at North High. So, pretty much we've been occupied with our homecoming season, which started on the 1st, and from the 14th through the 21st, we hosted games for all the participants who ran for homecoming court. And we put a lot of time and resources and effort into making sure those games were good. They ran smoothly, and all the effort that we did put in definitely came out at the end because we had good spirit just all around the campus. People, the participants, as well as the audience were excited for the games, and so it was just a really good time. And they ended on the 21st with the reveal of the top 10 homecoming king and queens, which were announced on 23rd, that Friday. And also on Wednesday we had our GPS night, which stands for Guided Planning Services Night. And so it's just getting students prepared for the college and career path, just getting them more aware and conscious of the things that are beyond high school. And so getting them on that path, starting them early. We had a keynote speaker, and we had a couple of representatives from some local UCs and Cal States, so that was good. A lot of people went, and it was a really good turnout, and counselors were very satisfied with the outcome. And also we had a Japanese school from Tokuharu High School from Japan visit last Friday, and we put on a little multicultural event kind of thing. We had our performance clubs as well as our culture clubs perform some performances, dances for the students, and they were all really entertaining, and really they all seemed to enjoy it. And I'm actually in contact with two guys that I met there, so it's really fun interacting with people just beyond just our regular social circles. So it was a really good experience for both the Japanese and us. So we were very thankful for that event. And other than that, we have our blood drive, which is on November 6th, and our goal is 400 pints. So it's a pretty ambitious goal, but we're very, very confident that we can make it. So other than that, that's what's been going on campus.
Good job, William. Since it's your last meeting, we have a gift of high perceived value here, so.
Can I make 2 comments while you walk over there?
Yes, yes.
I wanted to say I did get to go to the GPS, and there were some really marvelous speakers about financial aid, a variety of things, so it's really nice to see all of the folks show up for that. And then you didn't mention that the 200 kids from Tokuhara went to the football game on Friday evening, and that was quite a cheering crowd that evening. Very impressive. Thanks.
They look rather impressive in the stands. So, come here, William, and we'll do the official.
Okay, we smile, 1, 2, 3.
And then, William, you can take this is yours. This is yours. We'll expect you to put it on your desk every day at school now. Okay. We have Torrance Unified School District Student Services Department and Family Welcome and Enrollment Center update. Dr. Stowe?
Thank you, Mr. Lee, members of the board. In February of 2014, you approved and gave direction for us to officially begin work on the Student Services Department and the Family Welcome Enrollment Center. And so what we did at that time, upon the board approval, is begin construction downstairs in this building. And the fruits of the labor, so to speak, have been great. In addition, we also recruited for a director of student services, and that is Mr. John Pearson, and he'll present to you tonight an update. Now that we've been through 2 rounds of enrollment, we wanted to be able to present to you some of the great things that the Family Welcome Enrollment Center has been able to accomplish, really in line of providing increased and improved services to all families in Torrance. And one of the stories that I told in that initial summer when we were enrolling families is I sat down next to a father who had 3 different kids in 3 different schools. And we were talking about it, and he was just so appreciative of the fact that he could come here and enroll all of his students, get all the paperwork done in one fell swoop, as opposed to waiting until late August to enroll the students at the elementary and middle schools. And so what Mr. Pearson will give you is a little bit more of an update on some of the details and the vision, accomplishments and vision for the program as it continues to evolve. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. John Pearson.
Thank you, Dr. Stowe, President Lee, members of the board, Dr. Mannon, cabinet, teachers, parents, students, and community members. My name is John Pearson, and I am honored to present tonight on what is affectionately known as the FWEC. As you know, in education, we're full of acronyms, right? And so the Family Welcome Enrollment Center, we are known as the FWEC. We thought about FWEC, but that sounded a little bit too much like the Aflac commercial with the duck, so we decided to go with FWEC. Sorry. I'd like to begin by introducing and thanking our FWEC team who are here tonight. This group of intelligent, talented, and committed individuals are completely invested in our department, our school district, and our community. They have taken ownership of our role, working hundreds of hours of overtime, often on the weekends and sometimes until 9 p.m. in order to get the job done and get the job done well. They have taken pride in what we do and truly believe in our central purpose, which is to serve the families and schools of the Torrance Unified School District. So at this point in time, I'd like to take a moment to introduce and acknowledge Cheryl Pivovarov, please stand, Julie Wada, Alma Escalante, Melissa Skubik, Lori Gracia Ali Khan, and Alyssa Beasley for the tremendous work that you guys have done in opening our department. It's also very important that we thank and acknowledge a few folks who aren't here tonight. Ms. Veronica Flores, who was my staff assistant since the beginning, who played a tremendous role in the opening of the FWEC. Trevon Jamar, our custodian, and Jessica Rudolph, who was here at the very beginning. I'd also like to thank Jolyn Mock, Shelley Morse, Robin Fry, site principals and front office staff for their guidance during this process, and of course, thank Cabinet and our school board for all of your support. The goals were created over a year and a half ago and given to us as a template. And it most importantly defined our central purpose, which was to serve the families and schools of the Torrance Unified School District. We were to become a one-stop shop, the place where families could come at the same place, the same time, even if they had children of the same family attending different schools, we would be able to serve them all at once. We were to provide resources and services to families during enrollment, make sure that data entry would be consistent, which would allow us to more accurately understand demographics, data, and statistics specific to our school district, and most importantly, allow the sites to serve the needs of the family once the children got to the schools. From our creation and introduction to each other in July 2014 until now, we have taken numerous steps to ensure accuracy and efficiency. We are reflective and are committed to providing the best service possible. I think the most beneficial part of our development was the visits that we made to school sites to get feedback from principals and front office staff about how we can better serve them. We know our role is to enroll and then get that information to school sites as quickly and as efficiently as possible. We also visited a couple of enrollment centers in LA County and have been in communication with school districts who have enrollment centers to get their feedback and their input as we continue to develop. And I believe we have been successful. We have refined enrollment by streamlining the process. We have created an enrollment packet that we believe will get the necessary and important information to schools. We have expanded the number of resources available to families because we have the ability, our enrollment staff in a private area, to sit down and really have engaged discussions with families about the situation they may or may not be in, whether they're a family in crisis, whether it's a family in foster, or who's a student who's going into foster care. Regardless of the circumstances, we've been able to really sit down and engage the family in a quiet area about their circumstance so that we can get them quickly and efficiently enrolled, but then in addition, get the services available to help support them as they get into school. I also, as Director of Student Services, support with discipline, attendance, and school safety. So oftentimes I'm on the phone with principals, deans, assistant principals, talking to them about what's the best way we can support students as they're at school. In addition, our staff manages enrollment lists, overflows, boundary waivers, and permits. We work directly with our homeless liaison, Katie Hoover and Joyce Carrillo. We work with Ben Egan regarding language testing, and we coordinate with our special education department. Christina Dillard has been instrumental in making sure that students with IEPs, students with disabilities, are appropriately placed at their respective sites. And our impact. Most importantly, school sites are now able to focus their attention not on enrollment paperwork, but truly serving the families once the students arrive at school. We greatly appreciate the school sites for working with us during this transition. Their support has been invaluable, and we, again, couldn't have done it without them. Looking at the numbers, you can see that we've been very, very busy. One task we didn't expect, looking at the numbers here, is the number of folks who walk through our door, the EMB, just wanting to ask a few questions, redirecting them to language services, possibly perching or upstairs to IT. But it's pretty overwhelming when you look at, especially the numbers who, the folks who have come through our doors since January 2015, over 5,500 folks. So again, we've been really busy and our staff has done a tremendous job. The student service part of the job have been defined specifically in our LCAP. Some of the outcomes are to reduce the number of suspensions and expulsions and improve attendance. Again, I work directly to support sites in these areas. I represent TUSD in our county SARB and have revised board policy to reflect changes in Ed Code. When it comes down to the next steps, it comes down to really 3 areas, as far as I'm concerned. Really improve our service. do everything we can to expedite and efficiently get information to the school sites, get folks enrolled, and get that information to the school sites as quickly and efficiently as possible. Being a resource for site principals, deans, assistant principals, if they have a question about enrollment, discipline, attendance, I'm someone that they can call, and if I don't have the answer for them immediately, I will do everything I can to find that answer for them. And then continue to do our best in serving the families and schools of the Torrance Unified School District. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. Any questions? Mr. Wormers, and then Mr. Steffen.
Actually, I want to direct this to either Dr. Kim or Dr. Dugal. When this program kicked off, I heard from a large quantity, not a large quantity, a chunk of office staff questioning the value. How can this possibly be? We've enrolled students ourselves for years. There's no way they can do it as well as we can, et cetera, et cetera. The second year around, I'm assuming we got less of that kind of pushback, or is it improved, or?
Well, I can give you some anecdotal information. In the days right before school opened, I was able to visit several elementary schools, and walking to the offices was very different than it would have been a year or two earlier, where there would have been many, many people there asking questions, getting forms, filling out paperwork. Offices were almost empty, and what the secretarial and custodial staff were saying to me is that they had time to concentrate on the actual teachers that were there setting up their classes and helping them get everything they needed to get done for their classrooms. So it certainly seemed at all the schools I went to, they were very happy, and it was pretty quiet.
Very good, thank you. That was the only complaint we heard is when it started. After that, then we had obviously the issue with the power going down and, a few other oddball things, but completely beyond our control. But, well, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Steffen.
My comment's very similar, but, being a teacher, I see the front office on a daily basis, and at any school, it's chaos. People are coming in, kids are sick, teachers are screaming for something, and those people in that front office, I can only imagine, the way you described it, how much better they feel because of this. You're taking a great load off those people's plates and allowing them to focus more directly on those things. It has to be better. I mean, I know it would be wonderful for any secretary or front staff office person I've ever met. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Deutsch.
I just had a special request. If I wanted to come back and visit while you're working, can I do that? Do I call you to make an appointment, or?
Absolutely. Anytime. Our doors are always open, so yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mrs. Reagans.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that you mentioned about safety along the way, and I do know that that's part of your jurisdiction, including on the last step, the next steps, creating a TUSD safety committee to finalize a uniform TUSD safety school safety plan template.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that in process?
Yep. What I'm doing now currently is looking at 31 safe school plans, and I'm looking, and I've gotten a template from CDE, California Department of Education, and the hope is to establish a committee that will meet 3 times this year, one to really kind of just go through the plans, and then merge the 31 plans into the one template, so that when we submit our information to the TPD, TFD, they're going to know exactly, if there happens to be an emergency on campus, what page to look for, what part of the emergency plan to find the information that they need, so that we can more effectively serve our children in case of an emergency.
Well, actually, what occurred to me is we are looking at the surveillance camera piece this evening, how that will interface with what you're doing. Will there be any interaction, or?
That's a great question, and one of the goals is to have TPD and TFD as part of that committee as well, so they can provide their input.
Okay, thank you.
And then, lastly from me, I'm in the customer service business, being in the insurance business, and the customer service aspect of what you do, the forward-facing part to the community, has done an excellent job. I mean, I think all of us up here get, all of our phone numbers and all of our emails are posted on the website, so we'll get the frustrated people.
Yes, sir.
And so whatever they've done, they've rattled around a bit, and every time I've referred somebody to your department, it's been a positive customer service experience, and that really, that helps, I think, how we interface with the community quite a bit, because before you had to bounce them from, if you had kids on the west side, they had to go to Anza, they had to go to Jefferson, they had to go here, they had to go there. If Anza was full, they had to go some other place, and it wasn't easy. It frustrated the heck out of everybody. So I really think this is a great customer service, forward-facing kind of operation that shows that we try to help people through the process. So thank you very much. Mrs. Reagans?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that welcoming is really a large aspect of what you do. And I do know that not everyone is happy after they've been at your center, but I must say that anytime there's been an issue come up, that your staff have gone above and beyond and really put themselves out to figure out how to make it a better experience for the individuals involved, so.
Yep, all credit really does need to go to the team. They do a tremendous job, especially in the face-to-face conversations with families. They do a phenomenal job. The job of enrollment is pushing paper, but the personal connections that they make when sitting with a family and having a conversation is what makes them, which is what makes them special and what makes them do really well at their jobs.
And makes the parents and the students feel welcome, which is another aspect.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Well, I guess you got off the hook.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, now is the time for oral communications, unscheduled hearings, non-agenda items, instruction to the public. The Board of Education welcomes input from the public in order to discuss district business in an orderly manner in the privacy and safety of the speakers, and to help staff respond more directly, the board policies require that public presentations to the board comply with certain procedures, including speakers to non-agenda items may address only items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Time allotted for such presentations is limited to 3 minutes. Total time allotted for public input on non-agenda items is limited to 30 minutes. A speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another. When addressing the board, speakers are requested to state their name, address the president from the podium, and adhere to applicable time limits. Complaints against employees or students will normally be heard in closed sessions, and the district's complaint procedure should be followed before discussion with the board. And we have one card from Arthur Shaper.
Good evening, Torrance School Board, President Lee, attending audience members, community at large. My name is Arthur Shopper, a resident of this city and a graduate of Torrance Schools, Torrance Elementary, Madrona Middle School, Torrance High. I'm here to speak on 2 issues. The first is Common Core, and the second is regarding the school board race. Regarding Common Core, I've tried to be polite and subtle. I thought that was the approach that would work, but it hasn't. I tried that approach instead with the parents and the students in this community. They're not happy with Common Core. They're not happy with the dumbing down of literary and reading standards. They're not happy with the adjusted schedule that they have to take algebra by their freshman year only. I wouldn't have been able to take algebra if that had been the case. I took it my 8th grade year. They're unhappy with the data mining. One parent told me they're very unhappy with the emphasis on Islam in the 7th grade curriculum. A student, Danny Lim, a student here in Torrance, complains about it, and he wishes he could vote and put different people on this school board. So I want to go from there. There are 2 individuals on this board who are running for re-election. The first is Ms. Reagans, and she promotes her endorsements from the unions. And I've said it to her before, and I'll say it to this audience.
We're going to talk to things in the agenda within this.
Excuse me, it says non-agenda items, and you're not going to interrupt me. Thank you. Now, being endorsed by a union is not an endorsement in general. I think that what parents think and teachers think is what counts, not otherwise. That's not an endorsement to me. And the answers I did not get from the union president were very disturbing. And furthermore, this mailer that I received from Don Lee, this is false and misleading. In his claim that he is the only officially endorsed Republican school board candidate, that is not the case. There is another gentleman who's endorsed by the Los Angeles Republican Party. We have to have mailers in this community that communicate the truth. Not just in this case, but the TNU bonds were presented on the premise that the Aquatic Center would be open to the public, the entire community. And then at the March 30th meeting, and I was present there and so was Janet Taji, we were informed that that would not be the case. It would just be for swim teams and competitive meets. That is not acceptable. It is with great honor that I can speak to this board. If I had, I would hand out pink slips to each one of you for endorsing Common Core. And no, Mr. Wormers, I'm not bored, I'm engaged. It's unacceptable. Common Core, our kids are not common. Students have complained about it. Parents have complained. I asked them. I wish that you do the same. And with that, I'm glad I can say I endorse Clint Paulson and Rick Marshall for this school board race. And even if they don't win, every one of you on this board is now on alert. I wish it didn't have to come to this, that we had to get people angry or burn the car, as one gentleman would have said on this board, but I guess that's what it takes. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion action items, instructions, blah, blah, blah. Approval, item number 2, approval to award proposal number 08-09.30.15, Torrance Unified School District Security Camera to NIC Partners to provide district-wide electronic video surveillance system. Dr. Stabler.
Motion,
Need motion, a second.
Yes, first of all, I'd like Larry Ingwald and Gil Mara to come to the podium in case there are any questions. Mike Biola, who is the consultant from Guidepost, has notified Larry he had to go back east on an emergency, so he will not be available tonight. You have before you approval of the closed-circuit television surveillance RFP that was put out, and we have information in your agenda item concerning that. The company that was the lowest respondent, NIC Partners, and you might remember that name because they were the ones that did the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure upgrade. They have good knowledge of the district, but if there, at this time, if there are any questions concerning this particular project, we are here to answer them. We would recommend approval.
Mr. Wormers.
Yeah, can anybody elaborate? I mean, is the consultants had to go all the way on emergency. This maybe, I may have to wait for the answer, but alternative added number 2, what exactly are the video analytics and what are we talking about with them? And again, if you don't know, it's not a big deal. I was looking for kind of not too much of a technical answer, but it's kind of an explanation what it is, so.
Certainly. Right now, we've got an alarm system with door contactors and motion detectors. And when we first started talking to Guidepost Solutions, and on Michael's behalf, I got to apologize. He wanted to be here. He had a family emergency. His plane left at 7:45 this evening. So basically, these cameras have a lot of capabilities. And this is basically using one of these functions to, instead of having dumb door contactors, that basically if the contact gets broken, the alarm company gets an alarm and they send the police out with flashlights to find out who's stealing something, if they are, or maybe it's just a door rattling. Instead, we're going to have cameras, and this ad alternate allows the programming by the company plus 2 extra cameras per site. So we were thinking we'll probably put 1 camera or 2 cameras in the ASB rooms at the high schools where they handle a lot of money, maybe where they store the Chromebooks, in the admin offices where all the records are kept. And the cameras will be able to tell if something's moving, and then an alarm would get set. And it wouldn't be an alarm, it's a notification gets sent. We still have to have an alarm company. So then they would have a screen that would pop up and say, hey, there's a problem in this certain room. They'd be able to pull up the screen and see if it's a cat or a dog, or if it's a person sneaking around stealing something. Then they would call out the police, notify the police. They'll be able to pull up all the cameras in the school and basically see if there's people sneaking around and where they went. If someone hid behind a building or something, they'll be able to see all 30 cameras or 40 cameras at that site.
This is the technology part of it, and that's the part I suspected was the answer to. The next part that concerns me, I used to be in this business. I used to sell security cameras and card access and alarm systems. The biggest challenge with any new client in this process was their procedures and policies in place. Is this part of what the consultant's going to help us with through this? Because this is a big change in the way we do things. Right now, when an alarm goes off, we dispatch police. We're looking at a whole paradigm shift.
Our lawyers who's involved with it.
Oh. All right, cool. Then we're on the right path. I can't say enough about that's the challenging part to the way a card access or a security system in general works, is the actual policies and procedures. When such and such happens, what happens next? Exactly. And that's going to get tricky and complicated before we're done.
And at some point, we'll be going out for a security company. It may not be the same company we use right now because they'll
be a company that will actually be monitoring feed.
Okay.
To answer that question a little bit more, Guidepost has provided us with policies and procedures that they have made available. We've referred those, as Dr. Mannon said, to the attorneys, and they've made some recommendations. So combining the two, we will have a very definite set of the policies and procedures that will be available.
Okay, because from previous experience, it comes down to who actually witnessed, that actually saw the camera, and then ultimately somewhere down the road, months, possibly years down the road, who actually testifies. And we want to be real careful in how our policies and procedures apply, so we don't have, for God's sakes, Jason from IT sitting in front of an attorney trying to do a deposition. That's not the path we need to go, so.
And at a later date, you will need to sign an MOU with the city of Torrance.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make certain it was on our radar, so thank you all very much.
Mrs. Reagans.
And to follow up on that, Dr. Manning, the MOU would cover the relationship between us and the TPD, who will also be monitoring when
correct.
necessary? Okay.
And there are procedures that have to be delineated for both parties, in this case, the Torrance School District and the city of Torrance, to agree to.
Okay. On the additive alternate number 2, just to follow up on Mr. Wermer's questions, does include the cost of the extra cameras in those amounts?
2 extra cameras per site.
Are included in these bids that we
In
have
that
in front of
alternate,
us?
in the additive alternate, yes.
Okay.
The programming and that.
Okay. Actually, my questions relate to the additive alternate number 4, which I find very interesting because it's providing savings to the owner if all the cameras are reduced to recording on motion rather than on a 24-hour basis. And I guess my first question is, so all of the cameras involved or are motion-activated cameras or not?
They have that capability. So, and I had a long conversation with Mike on the way to the airport, and he said basically the industry standard you're shooting for is 30 days of storage. So obviously if your camera's recording all the time and pushing all that feed to, you're going to need larger servers. So the adult 4 was, if we are getting close to over budget, we wanted to throw something in there to pull back a little bit and save some money. And so we threw an adult 4 and said, okay, reduce it down to motion detection. So the cameras are not really recording anything until there's motion. The 50% is what an industry standard of how much motion you would get. It could be 40, it could be 60, but you're going to have a lot of cameras that are looking out on playgrounds at night that are not going to get any motion. Maybe a dog runs by or something. But during the day, there's going to be constant motion, so they'd be recording and recording. But it allows you to have smaller server size and save a little bit of money.
But disk space is so cheap these days.
Right. I mean, if you take, I think 36 sites, and whatever the number was, it's maybe another $2,000 or $3,000 per site to have larger servers, or we can reduce that down and have smaller servers.
Yeah, no,
But
I couldn't agree with the committee more in rejecting number 4, because disk space is so cheap, and this is not a huge difference. I'd rather know what's going on.
One other comment, Mr. Wormers, and I think Dr. Stabler made this point. We are indeed fortunate because the bids are under what we estimated. We have brought you a couple of projects lately. Our fencing project, which also is a safety and security item, along with surveillance, and both are under what our original estimates were for these. The only part I would just add for a moment is that this doesn't finish off video surveillance should you in fact approve this tonight. We do have new construction, which that will be included as soon as those designs are there. The aquatic center, the auditoriums, the middle school gyms. So those will be added at a point once we have those designs and we're up and moving on that. But we feel very good about the price of this.
Okay. I did actually have a couple of extra other questions, I guess. So if we have the cameras recording 24/7, which is the recommendation at this stage of the game, what are we getting different than we would get if we had the motion-activated cameras that activate whenever there's something going on in the area?
if we don't take adult 4, so basically we don't take the reduction in price, we're getting larger servers that can record a minimum of 30 days, but it's probably going to end up being longer. It's going to be a more robust system, and according to Mike, it used to be a 30-day minimum that you're shooting for, and now it's going up, and some school districts are actually going to 45 and 60-day recording.
But if we're doing less recording, then it's going to, you're going to be able to cover more days, right?
Right. Ask the question again, please.
So you're able to cover 30 days now at 24/7, so total recording of everything, every minute of every day. So if you only recorded motion when it occurred, which is what I understand number 4 to be saying,
Right.
and that's a way to save money, does that not also mean that in that same 30-day period, you'd be using less in terms of data storage space, and you could get more days within the same amount of space?
No, you've reduced your server size, so you're still shooting for 50% storage, still at 30 days. That's why
Oh, so it's commensurate with whatever the actual
You're still shooting
wording
for
is?
30 days. But the 50% is an assumption.
Okay. So, but I guess my question still remains, if they're action or motion-activated cameras, how much of what goes on campus are they going to capture? Are they going to miss things? Is that why we want to do 24/7 rather than the motion activated?
I think a lot of it depends on the amount of activity happening at the site too. So some sites will be a lot more active. So if you've got a large high school with a lot of activities going on, you're constantly having motion. Of course, middle of the night, for the most part, you're recording pretty much nothing. But the other point to this is by not taking the deduct, we're going to be able to size up the storage, and like Wormer said, it is fairly inexpensive these days, but by sizing up the storage, we pretty much future-proof it, so that gives us a lot more flexibility in the future if in fact you decide, you know what, let's go 40 days or 50 days, or should the recommendation ever change. At this point, we're getting a good amount of storage because we have enough to do 30 days, 24/7, and we can always, if we decide, you know what, we can go for just motion, and maybe only certain sites can go motion only because there isn't that much activity. So I don't think it's all or nothing at every site, right? But you just want enough storage so that you've got that flexibility. So.
The other advantage, and Dr. Mann had mentioned it, remember, we're not finished with adding cameras because of the gymnasiums, the auditoriums, the aquatic center, so there is room in the system for us to grow.
Okay. Well, then my last question actually relates to, we're buying cameras, though, that do have motion-activated capability.
Yes.
But if we're not going to use that capability, is that necessary? Should we just be having cameras that could record 24 hours a day?
You probably can't get them.
Actually, the interesting thing is, Mrs. Reagans, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I actually
I assume
thought
it costs
that.
more to have more features.
I thought that 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really have anything to do with it. It's how it's programmed. So all of these cameras have all of these capabilities, but it's how you program them.
The options you choose to buy.
In the old days, it actually mattered on the camera.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the analytics.
Yeah, when I did this in the old days, it actually mattered on what kind of camera you put in. You'd actually sense cloud motion. A flock of birds would set off alarms, like you're seeing dogs, cats, you name it. But during the middle of the day in a field where there's nobody around, a cloud would set off an alarm. So it was really kludgy. I can't wait to see the new stuff because it's got to be a whole lot. It's digital. It's got to be a whole lot more efficient. And being as we're under budget and disk space is so cheap, I'd rather, because then we can pick and choose later. We may decide that, okay, at nighttime we can actually turn the cameras on motion only across large swaths of our fields. But I'd rather have the lateral movement in disk space than try to come back later and start to restructure and re-add disk space to it. So.
And I can bow to your superior knowledge of that area for certain. But just thinking about it as to whether it is actually essentially a 10% increase above the base product or the base price of the project. So it's 10% more to buy that extra space.
Well,
Do you think it's worth it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think Mrs. Reagan's, if in fact we were close in terms of the amount of finance we had available, I think that's why we try to build deducts and alternate ads, and you've seen them before with that. In this case, the bids came back so in such good shape by Nick Partners, who's the lowest bidder, that, it's the same thing with our infrastructure that we put in. It is an excellent infrastructure, as Gil can tell you. Could we have crimped on it? We could have, but we didn't, and now you can see all of these pieces are now going to be utilizing our infrastructure piece, and we're going to be able to pull it all off.
And it is gratifying to see so many different bids, actually, so you do get a sense of what the range is and the capability of each of the companies. Thank you.
Okay, the MOU with the city should be interesting only because they're not gonna monitor it, but if something happens, they'll be have the ability to pull it up on a computer screen and be able to look at it, right? Somebody said it was gonna be monitored by PD, but that's not correct. But if there's an event, they find out about it, they can flip up the camera, they can see what's going on there immediately, whether in daytime, nighttime, any kind of thing, they can see it real time.
Yeah, it's actually the command center.
Yeah, there were with the command. I used to know all those titles, I don't know them anymore. Anyway, okay, well, good, we have a motion, we have a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well, we've made it all the way to consent agenda. So, how do we want to handle consent today?
I can make a motion to accept all consent agenda items in one package unless somebody wants to pull something.
I have a motion.
I'd like to pull something.
We need a card.
I'd like to, I'll fill out a card. I'd like to pull, my name is Rick Marshall, I'd like to pull administrative consent item 16, number 4, please.
16, no. Administrative item number, which one?
16, number 4.
Number 4.
Okay.
Agreement with
Okay, I got it, yep. Okay, good, so, do you want to do them individually as we go through them? Okay, good, let's take a motion for general functions consent items. Motion second.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Elementary consent items, motion second.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Secondary consent items, motion second.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Educational services consent item.
So
motion
moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Human resources consent item,
So moved.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Administrative services consent items except for number 4.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Marshall.
Do we need a motion on this before he speaks?
Yeah, we probably do. Motion a second.
So moved.
Second.
I will fill out the proper card here. I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. I see this as an agreement to have representation. I would be curious as to, I'm sorry I didn't review the agenda item ahead of time here, but I'd be curious as to just what this is going to do for the district.
What this is an agreement to enter into to have this particular legal firm represent in a case that is going on in Sacramento, the Attorney General of the State of California versus a number of wireless carriers, has to do with costs that were charged over a period of time, and they would, if the state prevails and along with the district, then we would receive some remuneration out of this case. The law firm, it's an 8% retainer fee. If nothing comes from it, we don't pay anything.
Kind of what it says.
Great. My question is, if the Attorney General is doing the suit, why do we have to be represented? I'm trying to understand why Torrance has to have a lawyer involved. Evidently, everybody else does, too. I'm trying to understand why that's necessary if the Attorney General is doing the prosecuting.
They represent us as amicus curiae friend of the court, and they will represent the Torrance Unified School District.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. Administrative services bond consent items?
So moved?
Yeah, there's nothing there, so that's good, that's easy. Information, board calendar has been posted. Comments from the members of the Board of Education, Mrs. Reagan, SoCal Rock.
Yes, thank you. First, before I forget, one of the consent items on the SoCal Rock Board agenda was to approve the following course outline for American Sign Language 3. You may have noticed that was also on our agenda this evening. So I understand that this is something that was requested by South High School, in fact is a functioning class at this point in time. It's kind of cool that we actually have Sign Language 3 going on, and there are students taking it, and actually some who are probably going to be hired as interpreters as soon as they complete the course. So very productive and nice collaboration, I think, between SoCal Rock and our school district, so I appreciate that. I did want to mention that they did have their medical insurance billing program person speak with us about doing medical front office and medical terminology and advanced coding and electronic medical records, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all the wonderful things that the students learn in those classes, and some students that gave testimony to having done that and passed the certification and working in that area. So it really does serve a purpose. SoCal Rock is still functioning and is alive and well and serving our students. So let's hope we can figure out how to make that continue. And that's my next item, is that they are going to be applying for a CTE, Career Technical Education Incentive Grant from the state. Although there's not information yet as to exactly what the application will look for or what the content will be. But they have asked that each member of the Joint Powers Authority that does govern SoCal Rock create a memorandum of understanding, and I have a copy here, and I understand that one should have been sent to us. If it has not been, I will make sure that it has been. It's a CDE, sort of a template for what that MOU might look like, so that they are certain that every member of the JPA agrees with SoCal Rock applying for this incentive grant and can be assured that we are behind them and supporting them. We actually did send a letter of support to them so that they understand that we truly are very supportive of the process, but we will do whatever the formalized process is that they need to. I do believe we need to actually pass it and approve it at a board meeting, so we will have to look forward to that. The SoCal Rock superintendent has been welcomed into to attend the South Bay Adult Ed Consortium, and was telling us about some of the content of the first meeting that she attended, including several other school districts around our area. So she will be working with that consortium and figuring out how they can fit in and what their place might be in that group. And then last but not least, they did have a September 10th budget subcommittee meeting where they talked about the sort of calculation of the CTE monies that each member of the Joint Powers Authority has committed to contribute to SoCal Rock to keep it afloat this year. And they are still working out the details, but are pretty assured that the CBOs, the chief business officers from each district, will create a formula that will be equitable and acceptable to all to determine exactly what that amount should be. And I think with that, that is all I have from them. I do have a couple of other things, if I can continue, Mr. Lee.
Yes, you can.
There are no anniversaries of classifieds in this agenda, but thank you, classified folks, for working with our students and keeping our schools operating. I do want to mention, I mentioned a proclamation already that November is the TEF membership month. Please do join and support our Ed Foundation. Really was a nice walk, and a lot of folks really supporting Ed Foundations all over the South Bay. That was at the beach this weekend. There's also a proclamation supporting California Sikh American Awareness and Appreciation Month as November of 2015, and a resolution proclaiming November 2015 as American Indian Heritage Month. And last but not least, a resolution proclaiming November 1st through the 7th as California Retired Teachers Week. So if you know any retired teachers, tell them thank you for their service and that we really appreciate what they've been able to contribute to our youth in our community. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reagans. Mr. Stefan.
Yeah, over the last few months, we've been hearing a lot about Common Core. And like tonight, it was said how it's dumbing down the standards and making our kids less productive and intelligent, I guess. But prior to Common Core, and I don't know if Common Core is the greatest thing or not, I've seen many standards come by, whole language, all this in the last 35 years, so change is not something new. But before Common Core, under No Child Left Behind, every state had the right to create their own standards based on certain principles. And you ended up with situations where one neighboring state like South Carolina, a kid would be advanced. They'd go to their neighboring state, North Carolina, and they'd be far below basic. And they avoided sanctions that way. Now, that's what states did prior to when they had the ability to create their own standards. You ended up with a wide diversity, a wide disparaging range of what kids were expected to do. If any of those kids came to California, they'd probably be far below basic because we have one of the toughest set of standards. We always have had one of the toughest set of standards. And California even put into Common Core, if I remember correctly, some of their own standards because they didn't feel Common Core was strict enough. And so as far as data mining, I don't know. That seems a little, people have been collecting data on students since, a long time. I don't know. Ever since the invention of a bubble sheet. But this brings up that we're going to have an election. Oh, no, one other thing. I taught middle school for 15 years, starting around 1992 when I taught history. Islam has been in the 7th grade curriculum since then. World religions is part of the 7th grade curriculum history program. 8th grade, you go into U.S. government. I think I got that right. Do I have that right? I think if I remember correctly. This is not something new. People have studied world religions. I got my minor in world religions, and I studied Islam. And I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it was a rather, wonderful experience I had. But I also want to bring up that we do have an election coming up, and I'd like to stress the importance of an election and voter turnout. America has an awful voter turnout rate. And not only is this election, in this election, but in every election, I also want to thank those candidates who are running a campaign that's based on positiveness and campaigning that way, and a campaign that's student-centered and not based on facts and fear and innuendo and things like that. I want to stress to all voters that's an amazing opportunity we have. I don't care if it's a school board election, a president election, or a dog catcher election, an opportunity we have in this country. A right that we can only be taken away from us if we are apathetic. And so whether you agree with what one candidate is saying, or what one presidential candidate is saying, or the other presidential candidate or school board, you gotta vote, or you don't have the right to complain. So just, if you agree with what I don't care if you agree with me, but you gotta vote, and you gotta teach your kids to vote. And that's what this is all about. And a board election is, I don't mean this negative, the bottom tier, in that it deals with the people directly. We touch children. We focus on the kids. That's it. We are dealing the most direct link to parents and voters of any other position. So you really have to consider what you do here, and I really hope that we have a decent turnout for this. Thank you very much.
Mr. Warmers.
Can't help but see Nick Partners in the audience. You guys have bit down another chunk of our business. I wish you the best. Forgive me if before we're done with this whole process, if I don't go, excuse me, can you explain why you're doing that? So I'm sure I did it before with you guys. I'm sure you don't mind if I do it again. So congratulations, and looking forward to continuing the relationship.
Good. Yeah, we have an election in 8 days, not that I'm counting. So please go out there and do your civic duty. If you can't find your polling spots, you can go to the LA County site. Probably call me, I can probably find it. But get out there, it's Tuesday. If you got a vote by mail application, put a stamp on it, send it in the mail, you got lots of time. If not, you can drop by the polling places in the neighborhoods. On that note, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting in memoriam of retired North High School teacher and coach Stephen Smith. Do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.